I would say that Hollywood's key interest in playwrights is that playwrights write excellent dialogue, which is one of the bugaboos of film and TV writing. There's a kind of artful authenticity to the way that they write, and they depict human interactions and conversation, as well as the rhythm and the pacing. And it's very difficult to nail, to make something contrived sound so natural. And they also have an ability to shape silence into meaning and tension. I would say that the main things that playwrights have to learn or relearn for the mediums of TV or film are, first and foremost, the transition to a visually focused medium like TV or film. Technically speaking, it can be difficult to transition from to showing over telling and action over words. For instance, in a play, a woman who is agonizing over her drinking problem might meet a friend in a diner to hold forth about it. Whereas in film or TV, you would have the woman arrive at the diner, maybe waiting for her friend, and then you would show two airline bottles of vodka clinking in her purse as she reached into it for her phone or something like that. Another big difference between playwriting and film and TV writing is that film and TV writing have fairly rigid structures, and instead of you don't embrace spontaneity the way that you might in theater. Time, those script pages in film and TV translate very directly into time and money. So there's, that's a real concern, mastering that structure. And also it's a common language that everyone's speaking on set in the process. And the inclination to write as though you're also directing can cause problems. First, in the technical sense, you don't put a lot of direction, whether it's camera direction on the page, you would leave that to the director, because your script is often being just handed once you're done writing it and you have a working draft, which you may not even consider complete and may actually be understood to need more work, that would still go over to a director once it's ready to be taken over. They don't need a lot of camera direction. They don't need you to say Sarah is swanning about the stage with a banana leaf. And it will also be their job to breathe life into this, to guide the actors into breathing life into the script. So all of your intention should really be on the page before it is handed over to the director. The $1 million question: how does a writer break into the film or TV industry? The bad news is that there is no magic formula to break into the industry, and anyone who tells you there is being untruthful. But that's also the good news, because it means that there's no one way to do it, and there's no absolute right way to do it. It's one of the few industries where sheer grit can get you a long way, regardless of what your academic credentials are. So first and foremost, you have to believe, and I cannot stress this enough, you have to believe that you and your work are valuable and that you have something to say that is worth saying, regardless of any outside validation that you get. Because it's going to be the fuel that keeps you going. And it is also partially a numbers game, partially relationships. I would say leaning very much towards the relationships. And so both of those things mean that you have to network. You have to keep throwing yourself at every interaction, opportunity, and possibility. And you have to, because a lot of times even people who are successful already get their next project done because they're talking to someone who knows somebody who happens to be looking at this genre or looking at this type of story or looking for this type of script. Also, don't turn your nose up at things like internships or just a regular day job, Joe jobs as assistants at companies, because even if nobody invites you in to be their head writer, you will form relationships, you will learn how the industry works, you will be on the radar of people who are like, I like that person, who have come to rely on you and interact on you, and then will be open to furthering the relationship in one way or another, whether it's, can we have a coffee to talk about my future, or, when you're ready, send me that script and I'll take a look at it. An agent or manager, yes, of course, can help a writer get a foot in the door. That's their very job. The question that you should be thinking about is whether you're ready for an agent or a manager. It's really your work that opens the door, not the agent. So there's really an issue of trying to get an agent before you are ready, no matter how tempting it is, and no matter how gloriously qualified you might think you are. It can be very problematic to beat an agent's door down and then have nothing truly ready, not just to show them, but that will empower them to show off your work and to bang down doors, because they really have to put their shoulders to it. And it's not, if it will be a waste of their time if you don't have something ready for them to use as a battering ram, which is of course your amazing work and vision. So before you start seeking an agent, you should be sure that you have a body of work that's ready to be shared. And you should also try to get a mentor if you can. At the very least, try to have trusted eyes on your work and be open to that exchange as well. It can't just be someone who tells you you're perfect and says, I'm going to hand this off to my agent. You have to be open to their thoughts and their feedback and their suggestions. My advice to writers about doing generals or interviews is first, for any meeting, always know the brand / profile and MO of the company or the individuals you're meeting with. Familiarize yourself with their successes, do your research. You don't want to submit Mission Impossible to a company that does movies like Minari or Nomadland or something like that. Be all valid, but just completely different focuses. Be ready to talk about your work in a clear way without expanding and philosophizing too much on the themes and ideas. There will be plenty of time for that later, but you're really selling the sizzle here. So you don't want to start winding down a road where people are either going to forget what you were talking about or fall asleep or just get kind of lost in the moment. So speak to your work, what makes you and your work personally unique, in a very clear and direct way. Be confident and positive. This is an industry where people are shoved together physically and creatively for long, intense work periods, and nobody wants to suffer an ass. You don't have to become someone you're not, but you should always let your best self shine through, no matter how nervous you are. The people you're talking to want you in that room. So there really isn't a reason to be nervous. And all of that starts with accepting that you belong in that room and that everybody in there is actually dying to discover you. Right now, in order to build their screenwriting skill set and career, aspiring playwrights can first write a spec script that you can use as a calling card. It's a really important way to share your work. And if you can, you should have a couple of different projects ready to be talked about or shared. And the second thing you can do is learn to take notes. It doesn't take away from your gifts just because someone else helps you to make your work better. You'll get notes sometimes in the room, in an interview, that don't make sense to you or that you disagree with. But you should not assume that because someone disagrees with you that they're devaluing your work or that they're idiots. You should instead familiarize yourself with the words, I hadn't looked at it that way. Let me think about it and circle back to you. It gives you a moment to gather your thoughts and to present outwardly receptive and calm, and then to really consider what it is that they have to say at a later time. The third thing is, and most important, is to write, and to network. And all of those things will become much easier the more that you do them. And they just think of them as part of your skill set, part of your weaponry, going into the big bad world of film and TV.